You know, the Beatles were like, all you need is love, but I disagree with that. Sometimes all you need to do is sit on the bathroom and just take a poop. It'll make you feel better.
Have I told you that's what my brother asks people when they're grumpy?
I think that's a legitimate question. Like, it's socially acceptable to ask people if they're hangry. Why not ask somebody when the last time they went poopy is?
I mean, he only asks people in the family, obviously, or his like close friends. But it's still like, if you're like having a bad day, he'd be like, "Have you pooped today?"
Yeah, when was the last time you pooped?
Like,
because
it's like, don't ask me that.
Speaking of shit, we should talk about this movie. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
You didn't. Okay, yeah. You start.
Okay.
Welcome. You are entering a strange realm. A realm of what ifs. What if movies, television shows, and video games were better, worse, bizarrer, or downright different? What might they look like? Find out on today's episode of CineCasters.
Welcome back to CineCasters. This is the show or podcast where we watch movies and pitch them back to one another in order to change up things we didn't like, or honestly, sometimes just because we want to talk about certain movies. My name is Janglez, and today I am joined by Alyssa.
Hello.
Alyssa hasn't been on in a while because she's been focusing on school the last little bit, but we're glad to have her back. How's life been for you?
Good. Really busy.
Really busy, yeah. And
feels weird to be able to like wake up late.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you can wake up late and feel good about that and not feel like guilty about having other work done. So, and today we are talking about Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
I love this movie.
I hated this movie.
I feel like everyone has to have one Christmas movie that is like their guilty pleasure.
Except mine's not a guilty pleasure because it's objectively the best Christmas movie.
What is it?
It's the original, like, 1968 Boris Karloff animated Grinch.
I knew this.
Yeah.
I knew this. It's my mom's favorite, too.
It's the best Christmas movie, hands down. Like, there's no argument.
I liked this one a lot. It probably because it's short and there's really bad music in it. And
oh
you
my
just
God.
get to, like, Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
It was terrible. Not your singing. Your singing was great. Don't ever change. I was watching this movie and I was like, I've never seen this movie. I've heard of it before, but I've never seen this movie. And I was like, oh, it's like a short, like a little under 90 minutes. Like it's gonna. It
wasn't even. It was like 50 minutes.
Yeah, and I was like, it's gonna be great. It dragged. I got halfway through this movie and I was like, please kill me now.
You only got like 25 minutes in and you were dying.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's how bad this movie was for me.
Really?
It just drags. Like, oh, man.
Maybe I have a different experience because we always watch it on cable, so there's always like commercial breaks.
That's not better. I feel like, well, you know what? Actually, the commercial breaks might add a reprieve. Like between the torture, you'd have a chance to like recover.
You can actually tell, like, when you're watching it, that this was made for TV because there are specific spots where the screen goes black for, like, a second or two, and then it, like, transitions into something where you're like, oh, okay, that was supposed to be a commercial break. Yeah.
That how you can still see that a lot in even in movies and shows today. If they're made for TV, you can see where those kinds of commercial cuts are because you, as a filmmaker or TV show maker, director, whatever, you have to think about where those commercials are going to be if it's going to be on network television. Because you want to tell your story, but you still have to know where the breaks are. So you tend to do your act breaks with your commercial breaks.
Yeah.
So that way it's like, so-and-so's actually your twin, dun, dun, dun. Or if you have the cheesy organ, and then commercial break, right?
Yeah.
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 If it's a telenovela or a soap opera, you got to have that cheesy, like, organ smear.
I know all about those. It was another one of my mom's guilty pleasures.
Oh, man. All right. Well, okay. First of all, The Grinch is not a guilty pleasure. I will defend that to the death. But Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. Why did you pick this movie? Why did you force me to watch this movie?
Because when I was watching it last year, because I messaged you last year, I was like, this is a movie that we need to do. I just remember really loving it and like finding it funny, but also thinking it would be something that you would get a kick out of.
I certainly got a kick out of it in one way.
I'm worried to know. Like, I almost feel like I know where your pitch is going to go just because of the premise of the story and who you are as a person.
Thanks? Am I that predictable?
No. But I don't know. I just thought it would be something fun and goofy, and it was short, so it wasn't like a huge time sink into an awful movie like Elf.
Yeah. So actually, Elf and this movie we talked about last year when we were looking for movies to go over, but we just wound up with like the 4 weeks leading up to Decemberween. We wound up with like 4 movies already. So I was like, oh, we'll save them. So, and Nate has a lot of feelings about Elf, which we did last week, and you're welcome to check that one out. And then you were like, I want to do Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer for sure. And I don't know, generally have pretty good taste in movies. So, and you were like, I really like this movie, but this must be a guilty pleasure for you because
it is. It's like Burlesque.
You know what? Burlesque at least had some semblance of plot. My biggest problem with this movie is like I don't really know what this movie is about. Like the story keeps changing, the main focus of the story.
It does.
Is it about grandma getting hit? Is it about grandma having amnesia? Is it about this greedy aunt? Is it about this Maximilian Bucksworth or whatever his name was? The greedy, like, or I guess he wasn't that greedy actually, but like the council or developer who wants to like build a robotics department of Santa automated sleighs, which is what terrible. Like, just none of that made sense. To me, my biggest problem with it is there's too many ideas, and it just glosses over all of them, and none of them are really well done. There's no theme. There's no real movement. The only thing that I really enjoyed about this was the fact that most of the characters are voiced by famous voice actors, or at least semi-famous voice actors. So Austin Money or whatever his name is, Maximilian Bucksworth, I can't remember his name. Austin Buck, that's his name. Is played by Cam Clark, who's a very famous voice actor. And then the dude who plays the main character's dad, I can't remember what the main character's name is. Max, I think?
Jake.
Jake's dad is played by the dude who does Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z. That's it. That's the rest of them. I was like, I don't know. I thought there was some neat ideas here, but it doesn't play with them very well. Stuff just kind of happens. Also, there's a weird like dance break when they're like, Grandpa's gonna sue Santa. I was like,
yeah, Grandpa's gonna sue the pants off of Santa.
That was a thing for me. Once I hit that point, I was like, I'm
really glad that's the only weird musical break though, but it went on way too long.
Yeah.
Like they could have just done it for like once through the verse and then that was it, but they like just kept going.
It keeps going.
And why was it like Hawaiian?
It's Lois Lane's Superman monologue all over again. It just keeps going.
Yeah. I don't know, to me they're like the idea that they went with was that like the Christmas spirit trumps capitalist values. I don't know.
Yeah.
Greedy values.
I mean, something I guess,
like
but that's yes and no. I don't know. I'm not really like, I watched this movie and I'm not really certain that I watched it because it goes by so fast and things just sort of happen. It's sort of about the store, but also about grandma, also about amnesia, about Santa Claus, about the meaning of Christmas, about believing in Santa Claus, about greed. All of that's there, but none of it's done well. Ugh. It reminds me of like this is on the border between what you could get away with as a movie. Like there are some really bad animated movies out there. So John Tron is one of my favorite YouTube channels because he's just hilarious and his reactions are hilarious. He does an entire episode about the animated Titanic movie. It's got a subtitle. I haven't
watched that episode yet.
It's got like the Titanic, The Legend Goes On, I think is what it's called. Titanic, The Legend Goes On. It has so many ideas and so many things going on in it that like it's just a mess. And his reaction to it is hilarious, but like the movie itself is garbage. And this is like almost borderline that. Like stuff just sort of happens out of nowhere. It's not as bad, but man, I think
there's still some like rationale behind some of it. Like we know that, what's his name? Onal dude.
Austin Buck.
Yeah, Austin Buck. We know that he basically owns 99% of the city except for Grandma's store. So like that's his goal, is to get Grandma's store, right?
To own it all, but the story's not even really about capitalism. Like he's not even the bad guy.
No, he's not. It's the greedy cousin, which I actually think I liked more because he turned out to be a nicer dude.
Yeah, the greedy cousin. What was her name? Greedy cousin Mel. Yeah, I had a really hard time with her because, like, if you notice, like, her design as well, she's like the sultry, sexualized woman who does bad because greed. And I find that really irritating because that's such a stereotypical thing to do, which is really irritating.
But she also wasn't, like, acting as a temptation for the main character, which is nice because she's his cousin.
Like, the design has to match the character, and she's bad, so we can show her as being like bad in terms of like Judeo-Christian values. I hate that. That's so irritating. Whereas like grandma is like, and everyone else is like this conservative values kind of, we're good people because tradition and whatnot. And also nobody actually likes fruitcake. That's bullshit. I'm sorry.
But it's grandma's fruitcake.
It doesn't matter. Nobody likes fruitcake. It's gross.
Well, I mean, you could see that where everyone was like, do we have to? And then they were like, oh, this is actually pretty good.
No, nobody actually likes it. That's a lie. Even if it's grandma's.
I've never actually had fruitcake in my life, so.
You are not missing anything.
Okay. I just don't like fruitcake because I don't like fruit chunks in my food.
Yeah, I don't want fruit chunks in my food. I want to eat. Anyway, get off on a tangent here. But, I don't know. Stuff just kind of happens. The elves look really fucking weird.
Yep.
Like really weird. I still don't know what the conflict of the movie is. Why is the dog's name Doofus?
Why was there even a dog in the first place? Oh, I guess he does sniff things out.
Yeah.
He does get used for the plot.
When grandma was found at the North Pole and they were like looking after her, and I was like, oh, they would have her in the North Pole, and they do have great medical care because the North Pole is in Canada. I at the end too, when everyone's like against Jake, not the very, very end, but everyone's against Jake, they're like, give it up, Jake, like you don't know anything. And then this is Daphne I'm talking about, and at the very end Daphne's like, you're such a great brother. It's like, this is bad writing. It's just bad writing. Like you can have a cheesy Christmas movie and not have terrible writing. Like that's what Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is. That's what, like, they're cheesy. But they're still they still have good stories. Like Rudolph has characters and a central conflict, and it pans out in the end. This one is just a fever dream. Somebody decided it would be a fun idea.
It feels really straightforward to me. Maybe that's because I've seen it a few times.
Okay, you explain it to me then.
It's Mel is trying to.
No. I'm not talking about. Sorry, there's a big difference between like what happens in the plot versus what the story is about.
Okay.
Right? I know what happened. I watched the movie, I think.
To me, it's just like the spirit of Christmas, which is, giving and being great, I guess, versus like greedy people. Like that's just all it is.
Yeah.
To me.
Okay. All right. I mean, I don't disagree. I think the actual story or actual scenes and story beats that played out with that could have been 10 minutes long, and you still could have had the same story.
I guess.
You seem really peeved at me. You're like, I really like this movie, so.
I do.
Okay, you tell me what you like about it then. What do you like about it instead of me just harping on it?
I like the cliches.
Be specific.
The like cliched businessman who is CEO of Own All Corporation.
Yeah. That was funny. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, I did. And then like the family dynamic is like very cliched where like the dad's like, oh yeah, whatever your mom said, and the mom is like, I don't know, I just find it really like cliche.
Absolutely.
And then, I also really like the relationship between Jake and his grandma. I find it very sweet.
Yeah, I did think that was nice.
They're like best buds.
Yeah, they are like best buds. I just found like Daphne to be like, I guess all the side characters are very shallow.
Yeah, they didn't do much for the plot.
All the side characters are very shallow, and even our main characters are not particularly well fleshed out.
Yeah.
Like our main character is Jake, our villain is Mel, and then Grandma. and it's sort of like we're relying on stereotypes in order to get us through the film, and that's okay. I guess it works. It's just a little frustrating, I think, to watch this go by, and have that happen. Like I think there are actually some really cool ideas because I tried to explore them in my pitch, but we'll see what you think my pitch is. So, what are the things that you didn't like about this movie? And then in a second, I'll do things I did like about it.
A lot of it was like, we didn't need the music. Like, it feels mean to say, but it was like kind of bad.
Yeah.
I was listening to it like, why am I getting like my ears hurt? This hurts to listen to. And what else?
See, I liked I actually think the idea of like doing a movie off of the Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer song is clever. That song is like a classic. Everyone knows it. So like I would have played the song at the beginning and the song at the end, but I don't know like the other musical numbers that are sort of in there, particularly the Grandpa's gonna sue the pants off Santa one.
We didn't need that.
We didn't need that. But then there's another couple other parts where there's like like it almost feels like it's still another verse of Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, but it's about her fruitcake. I think it's supposed to be a different song, but it sounds very, very similar.
Well, it's done by the same guy.
Yeah. I don't think that was necessary. Like, I understand that the fruitcake was a plot. Like, I did appreciate that, like the setup around the fruitcake being part of the plot, but I also don't know what the fuck reindeer nip is.
It's supposed to be like catnip. Like,
I
just go crazy for it.
Here's the thing.
I don't...
Okay. If Mel doesn't think that Santa Claus exists, why would she put reindeer nip?
I don't think that was her plan.
Okay.
I think her plan was just to poison the fruitcake so that everyone would be like, ew, fruitcake, blah.
Also, and Grandma's senile,
like,
yeah. And she
yeah,
needs to
and
sell
then
the
people
store.
would be like, we're not going to buy from Grandma anymore. And then that backfired.
Yeah. Well, then she got run over. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense because I understood like the concept of what reindeer nip was supposed to be, but I was like, okay, if Mel's plan was to have Santa
that wasn't her
run
plan.
over Grandma, then that would imply that she believes in Santa.
Because while she's stirring it in, she's going like, oh, now no one's going to buy the fruitcake, and then you're going to have no customers, and then your business is going to need to be sold. Ah!
See, I think it would have been better if she had just like emptied Grandma's pill bottle into the fruitcake.
Yeah.
Get rid of the whole Santa Claus thing and just empty, or the reindeer nip thing and just empty, because then it would have been like, oh, Grandma's going senile. She's putting her pills in the fruitcake. It's time to remove her from owning the store, and then it would go to probably in Grandpa, but Grandpa is senile as fuck. Grandpa doesn't do anything.
Yes.
He is literally a pawn.
Just hangs out.
You could get rid of him and just have Mel be the next in line, and it would make more sense to me.
He doesn't really need to be there, other than as like validation for Jake.
But he doesn't
at the start.
Yeah, but he doesn't actually seem all that peeved that Grandma's missing his fucking wife. It's only Jake that seems really peeved that Grandma's missing, like really miffed. Everybody else is like, she's missing, get over yourself. I'm Daphne and I hate Grandma because plot.
Yeah, Daphne, I didn't understand why she even existed.
It's so irritating. Yeah. I don't know. I still think that the very end I wrote like, ha ha ha, it's so funny that Grandma got run over, because why not?
Oh, like a second time.
Yeah. Because it's like Santa Claus has a serious problem here if he keeps running people over. Anyway, I'm really trying to focus on things that I liked about it. I did think that the classic hand-drawn animation was really nice. The colors were very, very bright. Like it did have this kind of nostalgic feel, like both in how it's drawn and the aspect ratio it's presented in, which is in 3:4. And I did enjoy that. I did find it like, and I easily could have seen this myself watching something like this when I was a child. I don't know if I would have, maybe I would have gotten more out of it because I would have been less critical. But yeah, there were things that I did like Doofus the dog. There was some unintentionally funny moments. I know I said I would talk about things that I liked. There were some unintentionally funny moments, like when the elf was at the window, and they like look out, and I was like, oh, it's the Green Goblin is out the window. That was unintentionally funny. So yeah, there were some funny things that I did enjoy about this, but they were usually unintentionally. It was usually just a case of like bad animation or bad writing, where I was like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah. So
yeah, I had one thing that I was like, that is stupid. The only thing that was like actually like, are we sure about that, was when Quincy and Jake were trying to get Mel away from the cabin, and they're like, there's a bear by your car. And she's just like, oh no, I better go check.
But, like, yeah, I wouldn't run out to go and check on a bear.
Deal with a bear?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Mel. Why?
I don't know, because she's a villain, so she's supposed to be stupid. What was the point of the inclusion of Mrs. Slime or Miss Slime? They just needed like another villain character, but they already had two.
They had someone who they could actually call Slime, because they're not going to call their cousin Mel like a slimy bastard or something.
Yeah, but no, her name was Miss Slime.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're going to have a villain, have a proper villain. I actually did like the fact that in the end, Miss Austin Buck wasn't like a terrible person.
Yeah.
Austin Bucks or whatever. He did wind up actually having like some redeeming qualities. But which I thought was a nice subversion, so that like really Mel is the villain, but they kind of downplay that too. I don't know, because greed. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of having like one-dimensional villains either. Okay, so I'm gonna go on a rant here. This is one of the big reasons why I don't particularly like Lord of the Rings. I love the world building and I do like the story, but I find Sauron as a villain is one-dimensional. He's just the big scary oogly boogly in the sky that's gonna threaten the world, right?
Yep. What's
his motivation? What does Sauron do? Well, if you read deeper, he serves the Dark Lord Morgoth. Great. What does Morgoth want? Like, what are Sauron's motivations to serve Morgoth? You know what I mean? Like, does he have his personal motivations? How do you get there? Like, what's the reason? Because I think having a villain with motives and motivation and autonomy makes them far more interesting. And they don't even have to be like shades of gray. It doesn't have to be like they're doing the right thing, or the wrong thing, but for the right reasons. It doesn't even have to be like that, like morally complex. It just, you have to give me something.
Yeah.
What happened? Why are you like this? Why are you like this? That's your favorite thing to say to me. That is. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be something.
I could go into a conversation about the Lord of the Rings, but it's not really
on topic. But my point here is Mel is just greedy because of greed. Like, there's no.
She just is.
Yeah, I need something more than that if we want to have like a good motivation. Something, and it doesn't have to be redemption or anything like that. It just needs to be like, why is she like this? What drives her this way? Because like greed is one thing, and that's a fine motivation, but like I think I always feel like I need more. Like, okay, you're greedy, but why are you greedy?
I mean, could it be because her parents aren't around? I don't know. There's like, they weren't around in the movie. I can only assume. Where's aunt and uncle, whatever their name is?
Yeah. So but that's what I'm saying. So maybe she just didn't have enough when she was young because her parents died. I don't know. Then greed sort of makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, that's something at least. At least we're getting a motivation as opposed to just like greedy aunt, greedy cousin Mel.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Let's get into pitches.
Okay, do you want to go first or should I?
Well, it's up to you. But if you think you can guess my pitch, then I think you should try and guess what I'm going to do with it.
I don't know, something to do with capitalism.
Something to do with capitalism.
Capitalism is bad.
You're actually not right this time
really?
around. I didn't do anything with capitalism.
Oh, interesting.
I thought. Well, okay,
what is it?
Well, do you want me to go into my pitch? I'll do my pitch. So my movie starts out with a main character who's now Daphne, because I actually thought that Daphne was a more interesting character than Jake. So She's now the main character. And without narration or voiceover, we see how her grandmother is a big part of like keeping tradition alive around Christmas. Like, so keeping the family together and doing stuff like that. But it's not narrated. It's just like...
Wait. Is this just going to be the Grinch, but with people?
No.
No? Okay.
Good try, though.
Keep going.
The Grinch is with people. They're just
Well,
who's.
I mean, like, without a green person.
No. So, yeah, they aren't, like, terrible people, and there's no narration. And the family's just, like, family, but sometimes they get, like, really busy. And so it's really Grandma who's, like, instilling this tradition and togetherness that's important. She's sort of giving it to Daphne. And we also meet Daphne's brother, who I named Max, who doesn't think that Christmas is very good. He's like, Christmas is a crappy time of the year and I don't like it. And Daphne sort of teases him. He's like, it's not fun for you, Max, because you're on the naughty list. And that's why it's not fun for you. Mm-hmm. I'm keeping mine very, well, you'll see. It gets messy.
Okay.
On Christmas Eve, while everyone is like staying over at Daphne's parents' place. So like Grandma and Grandpa don't live there. They're like over for Christmas. Grandma hands Max a gift. So on Christmas Eve, it's tradition for a lot of Dutch and German families to open presents on Christmas Eve, not Christmas Day. And so they're going to like celebrate some of their German or Dutch heritage by opening one present each. So Grandma's like, here's one for you, Max. And he opens it up and it's a laser pointer. Just something he can, play with a cat or whatever. It's a laser pointer. Just a little something cool like that. But then she realizes that she accidentally forgot Daphne's present at her home. So she's like, okay, I'm going to go and get it. And everyone's like, no, don't worry about it. We'll get it another time. Even Daphne's like, it's not a big deal. And she's like, no, it's not fair that Max got his present, but not Daphne. It's important that we respect our like family heritage. So she's also, their name is Spankenheimer. So she goes out that night to return home to grab the gift, but nobody sees her return that night and nobody knows where she is the next morning. So what they find is that she's gone missing, but there seems to have been a collision between a person and there's a sleigh that's crumpled up into a tree and no reindeer and a man in the sleigh. There's no reindeer attached. The man claims to be Santa Claus, and it's clear that Grandma's missing and was somehow hit by the sled. We can see the imprint in the snow. So the doctor checks the man out, who claims to be Santa Claus. And he's like, yeah, this dude, I think he may have like suffered a concussion on impact and now thinks he's Santa Claus. Okay. Because Santa Claus doesn't exist. Everybody knows that. But because of his reckless driving, the police are like, we're going to have to like press charges. Like you can't go around doing something like that and just driving a sled in the street. So he's like, we need to know who you are. And he's like, I'm 100% Santa Claus. But he has no way to prove it because Santa Claus doesn't have a license. So they're basically like, we're going to need to go to court and figure out who this guy is. Like, he's going to get charged, but we have to like investigate him. So Daphne's sort of devastated that her grandmother was hit, and she like tries to like talk to the guy. She's like, you're not a very nice person. But he's like, yeah, actually, I am 100% Santa Claus, and this is what you asked for Christmas. And she's like, oh, holy shit, you are Santa Claus because I didn't tell anybody what it was. It doesn't really matter what it was for the sake of plot. And then he's like, I lost control of my sleigh during the snowstorm, and I never meant to hit anybody. And it like landed and crashed into the tree. And but like I don't know where your grandma is, but like if we can find her, that'll clear things up. So he asks Daphne to find the reindeer, and because he's not allowed to leave, that they somehow got unhooked during the crash. And Daphne's suspicious, but she's like, okay, I'll go find the reindeer tracks. Like, I think this might be Santa because he knew who I wanted, but like he knew what I wanted and that I was on the nice list. But so she goes to do that, and we get a little bit of the detectives and the lawyer all arguing to try and figure out who this man is. And they think that he might be like a fugitive or a criminal who's like on the run. That's why he doesn't have any ID. So,
okay. Not just like a senile old man who forgot everything at home before he left.
Maybe. So Daphne goes to the crash site, finds some reindeer prints in the snow, looks for the reindeer, and she finds her brother who's actually trying to like smuggle one for himself so that he can like fly around, and he didn't want to tell anyone that they were actually reindeer. And she's like, that's BS. You're a terrible person. So she finds all 9 reindeer. I think it's 9.
Okay.
And they seem to, like, she brings reindeer into the courthouse, and they like recognize Santa, and it looks like they all like, everyone's like, oh my God, it really is Santa. So everything's all fine and all works out, except it doesn't, because Santa still hit Grandma during a snowstorm, And although he might be Santa, he's still driving a vehicle in the snow and hits someone. And it looks like grandma might be dead because they can't find her. So they're like, we're still going to have to charge Santa with vehicular manslaughter. And he's still going to have to go to court. Yeah. So now the whole country is in shock because it's getting like all this press coverage. The whole country is in shock because not only does Santa exist, but like Christmas is actually going to be ruined because Santa's on trial for vehicular manslaughter.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's just such a good sentence. That's one of the best sentences I've ever said. So the whole idea here is I don't know a lot about court, but I would love to have like some scenes here where we actually go into like legal proceedings around what do you do with a fictional character when they're in court for manslaughter, and like how a sleigh could even be a vehicle, and what Santa was doing outside on Christmas Eve, which we all know, of course, but just those kinds of things. Like, was it actually just having like some actual court battle over this ridiculous scenario? Yeah, so there, I just thought that was the funniest part. Like, what happens if Santa's on trial for running over Grandma? Daphne does everything she can to find Grandma because she thinks that will, if we can find Grandma. But it even comes up that what happened is Santa hit Grandma and then disposed of the body so that it wouldn't like he couldn't get like in more trouble, right? Yeah. So, like, what if the body's disposed? And Grandma's like, but it's like, it's Santa. Would Santa really do that? And they're like, well, how much do we really know about Santa beyond what the legends are? So that carries on. So after like a month of searching and courts looking bad for Santa, Daphne finds her grandmother. So basically she's like, when she finds her grandmother, she's like, when the doctor first found Santa and that they thought that he hit his head, he was just a man who'd hit his head and forgotten everything. And so what if Grandma had like hit her head and forgotten everything? So she starts looking in other places, finds her grandmother, but her grandmother doesn't remember her. And eventually, I guess maybe through the fruitcake, some Christmas tradition from the beginning, Grandma remembers, and she explains what she saw was that Santa had already crashed. Yep. And she went to go help him, but slipped in the snow and hit her head.
Oh,
so she never got run over. Hit her no, he never even hit her. And the reason that Santa crashed is because Max wanted to sabotage Christmas because everybody else was getting presents, and so he wanted to ruin Christmas. So he shot the laser pointer in the sky, got in the eyes of Rudolph, and the other reindeer thought the red light was Rudolph's nose, and they followed it down and crashed.
Oh no!
And so Max is permanently on the naughty list, but Santa is saved. He doesn't have to go to jail. Grandma is totally all right, and everybody lives happily ever after, except for Max, who is permanently on the naughty list because he's a little trash asshole. And that's the end. Basically, the idea is I really wanted to explore the scenario of like, what if Santa was on trial for vehicular manslaughter, and just go through like. The idea behind court is always that you're supposed to like look at all angles, right? And make sure that it's not about it's not really about justice or truth. It's about making sure justice happens to the extent of the law, not the truth. So just watching people be like, how much do we know about Santa Claus? Like, is he a reputable source? All that we know about Santa is what legends tell us, but how many people know that he's technically a recluse, right? Yeah. He doesn't talk to other people. We have nobody else here except for Reindeer to verify his identity. Like, is Santa actually really all that reputable? Well, it turns out in the end that yes, he is. He makes toys for kids, and he's everything that we all hoped and dreamed he would be. But I like the idea of being like, and the lawyers aren't bad people. They're just trying to do their job. And that means, is our client reputable? Is he, you know what I mean? People leave out milk and cookies. Do they also leave out, spiked eggnog? Was Santa driving his sleigh under the influence of spiked eggnog? I'm going to leave out
spiked eggnog this year.
Right. Was Santa, but that's what I'm saying. Like, was Santa driving under the influence? Was there alcohol in his system? All of these things I think need to be asked. Yeah. Because I think that's hilarious. Like, I think that's, you could do something comedic with that. But that's my story and I felt like at the end it had to be a misunderstanding. Like, Santa had to be fine the way it was, and it was all just like a way to do like this hilarious circumstance, like very kind of dark humor. But that's what I would have liked to have seen, because I do think the idea of Santa on trial is actually kind of funny. Yeah. Anyway, there you have my pitch.
All right. Okay, fine. I don't know if mine's going to be this as great.
Sorry, I forgot to add one thing.
Okay.
At the end of my pitch, capitalism bad. There you go.
Capitalism equals bad. Yeah. Okay, well, I went that route, so.
Oh, good. I'm rubbing off on you.
But only like a little bit.
All right, hit me.
But it still happened. So, anyway, so we start the same way. I like that we both took the voiceover out, because who needs voiceovers? We see Grandma reading to the kids, having a fun time getting ready for Christmas, and we meet Jake. And then Austin Bucks was his name.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, comes in. He offers to buy the store. Blah 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 blah. I still kept like basic things with everyone's personalities, because it was 3 a.m. when I had my idea. So, So yeah, and then we actually find out that he's not the only one that's really rich in Cityville. There's also like a couple other people and corporations who like owned the majority of the city, except for like the few mom and pop shops here and there, and they're all trying to like get this extra space for themselves. So later on, it's Christmas Eve. Jake is helping Grandma with her fruitcakes, and they bond over Christmas and their traditions, and we can see like that she's like passed down like the meaning of Christmas to him, where he's like, oh, I just want to give people things and I don't know, make sure that they are okay.
Charity is a big part of
the
season.
And so they actually secretly got each other a gift to give each other on Christmas Eve before Christmas morning. And so the Jake's gift for Grandma was the mug, like the travel mug that, I mean, we later see is her favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And then Grandma's gift for Jake was his own little mini real Christmas tree, because he was like devastated over the fact that his family broke tradition.
An inflatable tree.
Yeah. So she helps him set up the tree, and they talk about Christmas, and they have fun, and they talk about Santa. And then she puts him to sleep before heading out to check on the volunteers at, I think it was City Hall or something like that. So same thing, basically. And she's got her new mug full of eggnog for the walkover.
Gotta get that nog.
Yeah. So Grandma gets run over by a reindeer. In the same way, Jake and Grandpa both see it. No one believes them, but Grandma's missing now. So here's where it actually really starts changing. Is that over the course of the year that she's missing, Jake is trying to find her and doing the same things that they did in the movie. But also at the same time, things in Cityville are starting to change a little bit at a time. So one of the rich people, I don't know, we'll call him Dave.
Maximilian, lots of money.
Yeah. He ends up changing his ways, and he starts like opening up more charities through his own business and doing all sorts of I guess humanity stuff. I don't know.
Humanity stuff.
Yeah.
I like the way you put that.
And so we have a scene of him right before this where he was being threatened by someone.
Ooh.
But we don't know who it was. They were off screen. And then, so slowly other people start to change as well. Jake's dad ends up, instead of working at the store, he gets a job working for this person who has finally just changed his ways. And their overall quality of life starts to get better. They move into a larger house, and they have more things, and they can, I don't know, spend more time together now because they're not all worried about the store. Because without Grandma, it's kind of struggling a little bit. But they're not going to get rid of it. So then next, one of the huge corporations disbands, and their companies that they owned kind of went back to the community, except for a few, which the Own All Corporation snatched up.
Yeah.
We already knew about Cousin Mel because she was already there. I forgot to mention her in the start, but she was still the same slime ball. So she's been scheming against Grandpa, where she wants to get the business so that she can sell it to the Own All Corporation, because that's like the only one that's left now that's still owning everything or trying to own everything. But at the same time, yeah, new good things keep happening in Cityville, and like the city just starts turning into a nicer place to be. So then, what was his name? Austin Bucks.
Yeah.
He gets visited by a stranger. And then that's when Jake is like, you can't sell the business. It's like, Grandma's still alive, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, you know what? Sure, I'll give you a week. But he knows something, but we don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. And so he's got some ideas, but we'll see. Okay. So then Jake gets the great idea to get in contact with Santa. Don't know why it's taken him almost a full year to do this. But he just has been trying to go through things the traditional route, I guess. Also, in the original movie, emails don't work like that.
Yeah.
Zapping through the wires.
It's a classic way to like show the transference of...
I guess.
It's an old trope.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, same thing happens where Quincy shows up. They takes him to the North Pole. Santa's waiting. And then Santa actually admits to Jake that, like, despite all the changes in Cityville, that no one has been writing to him from that city still. There's, like, no believers except for him, except for Jake. So, wow, I really skipped through a bunch of stuff in my pitch.
Okay.
So Santa is basically like, here, your grandma is here. She doesn't remember anything, but she's been helping out. She's been doing some work for me. Just because she just didn't like sitting around and doing nothing. But you can take her home. Maybe she'll remember something. Maybe she'll be able to help people believe again. And then, yeah, they send her home. So they get there. Oh, yeah, sorry. They don't send her home. They send her to the Own All Corporation to stop the deal. So they get there just in time to stop the deal, of course.
Got to.
And, yeah, it just has to be that way. And then after Grandma and Santa both show up, Austin Bucks reveals that, hey, you visited me last week, Grandma.
Dun dun dun.
And then Santa gets accused of kidnapping and brainwashing Grandma.
Whoa. And I thought mine was dark.
And Grandma gets accused of breaking and entering and threatening people.
Blackmail, coercion.
Blackmail, yeah. And so now, all of a sudden, there's a trial. I'm really glad we both took the crazy trial route as well. I think that's hilarious. But at the same time, what's his name? Austin Bucks was like, well, I mean, they're just trying to make people better. But Mel was like, no, this is not good. So, I mean, basically same thing happens where Jake and Quincy try to find clues. They found their way to Cousin Mel's shack, I guess through Doofus, maybe. And then they make it back to the trial just in time again. And then that's when Grandma eats the fruitcake and remembers everything. Mm-hmm. But also the whole time, Grandma was also like testifying, like, okay, Santa didn't kidnap me. He wanted to make sure that I was going to be okay. And then I offered to help around the workshop. And then Santa's like, well, she didn't break and enter because she went through the chimney.
Which is still technically breaking and entering.
I guess.
But for the purposes of Santa Claus, fine.
Yeah. But, somehow they both get their names cleared. I couldn't think of how the trial would work
Christmas,
for that to happen. It's Christmas. Christmas miracle.
Christmas miracle.
And then we later see that Grandma has become known as like someone to respect, and that if you're a bad kid, Grandma's gonna like what was their last name?
Spankenheimer.
Yeah, Grandma Spankenheimer is gonna tell Santa that you were bad, and you're gonna be on the naughty list. And then 10 years later, we see that Jake and Grandma both get letters from Santa. Yep. Still, which is like, yeah. So that was it wasn't amazing, but I think it was really cute. Still followed the idea of family, I guess.
This was a hard one to pitch because, again, like, it's hard to pull like on a theme, like a singular theme or a singular story beat. The only thing that both of us were like the trial is a really interesting idea, Santa on trial, but it's also like I debated having like Santa just outright actually run over Grandma and kill her. But how do you do that and still have it be a Christmas story? You know what I mean? Like,
I think then it becomes more of like a thriller.
Maybe not a thriller, but you're certainly like,
or like a law movie.
Yeah, or like, how do you deal with like? I also debated like the idea was I would debate like, Grandma gets run over by a reindeer, but then they're trying to figure out who like ran her over and if Santa Claus is real or not, and there's like this whole like legality thing and whether something that's real or something that's fictional can actually be called like real and what that means. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it winds up being really tricky to do that when you're dealing with Santa, because you always want it to be like, well, it's Santa Claus, but I don't know.
I also just wanted mine to be like, change your ways, where like Grandma's actually like some crazy like daredevil type person where she just shows up and is like, you're evil, and they're like, I'm evil, okay, I'll stop.
She's the old bat as opposed to the dark bat.
Yeah.
The old bat.
That's a good one. I should have used that.
That's all right. Yeah, I don't know. This was a weird movie. I wish I had more to say about it, but there's not really that much to say. It's just a very strange short movie, animated feature about Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
I'll probably still watch it every year.
Oh, you should, if that's your tradition. I don't mean any disrespect on anyone's tradition. As I always say, there's no such thing as a bad movie. There's just certainly like ungraceful or not well crafted movies, right? But art is subjective, so
yeah. Next year I'll probably have a better idea for it and be like, damn, I should have waited a year to pitch it.
Well, there you go. We'll have to do this again. Never. No, it's fine. If we have to come back, we'll come back. But yeah. Wow. Where can people find you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Alyssa Lou with 3 O's, or you can find my creative stuff at Alyssa Rose Handmade on Instagram.
You can find our band Robot Philosopher anywhere you listen to dope music. You're going to want to check that out. We're coming out with new stuff all the time, and we're starting to play some shows soon, so check that out. You can also check out our other channel, the CineCasters, for more scripted content. And thanks for hanging out right here. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes of this podcast and the Classic Podcast every Friday. Thanks for chilling with us.
Bye.